welcome back to the WalterPicks Fantasy Football Show. This day's episode is going to be on the New England Patriots.
Yes,
we're going to talk
is.
through our takes for this team, some insight about what we're projecting for the Patriots in the WalterPicks app. And I'm a Pats fan. I'm pumped for this one, not just because I'm a Pats fan and it's the most optimistic I've been as a Pats fan since I think 2018, Tom Brady's second to last season. I was actually at Tom Brady's last game as a Patriot, and I knew all season it was going to be his last year. People were debating that at that time. I knew it was going to be his last game, and I have been a pessimist basically since.
Okay.
And this is, I think, the first year since then to be pretty optimistic, and there's a lot of reasons why. Before we jump into the specific players, every offseason there is a few like dramatic changes that occur on some teams, and not that they don't get talked about, because they definitely get talked about. Like the Bears are a good example this offseason of this as well. Definitely getting talked about, but I think still not getting accounted for enough in fantasy football. The Patriots are definitely in contention for the biggest year-to-year shift in offensive environment. I'm always looking for situations that were terrible last year and a reason for a massively improved situation this year, and we have it for the Pats. And again, I want to preface this episode. I am a Pats fan, but I've been a pessimistic Pats fan for a while, so I feel like I've earned at least some trustworthiness for when I am optimistic. I'm not just this perennial optimist when it comes to the Patriots, but they last year bottom 5 offensive line on top of bottom 5 receiving talent. That was the situation for the Patriots last year. Drake Maye did not start at the beginning of the year. They put Jacoby Brissett out there because they knew they weren't ready to compete with a bottom 5 offensive line, bottom 5 receiving weapons. And Drake Maye gets in there for, half the season performs pretty well for a rookie, nothing too amazing, but nothing terrible. But again, in the context of a bottom 5 offensive line, a bottom 5 receiving talent room, and a coaching staff that was fired after the first season, probably not a good sign about that coaching staff either. And then you look at the massively improved situation this year. And if it's not the Bears with the biggest offseason improvement, it's the Patriots, man. They added multiple new offensive line starters through the draft and free agency, including the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. So the offensive line improved through multiple free agency acquisitions and the NFL draft. Then on top of the offensive line improvements, and I think there's like a real chance the Pats are a middle of the pack offensive line this year. So going from bottom of 5 to like 16 to 20 in terms of their offensive line ranking, I think there's even the potential to be a bit higher than that. But they also just have some explosive players in the receiving game. They bring Stephon Diggs in, who's coming off the torn ACL, but is supposedly fully healthy, practicing in full already. They draft Kyle Williams in round 3, who I like a lot. I think Darnell Mooney is like a ceiling comp for Kyle Williams and could be like a real explosive deep threat player immediately.
That's a good one
for the Patriots. So a second explosive player added there. And then they also draft arguably the most explosive receiving back in the class in Trevion Henderson, who also happened to be one of the best pass blocking running backs like we've seen as a prospect. It really come through the draft. Definitely the best in this class as well. So he has a plus there, not only his receiving ability, but his pass blocking ability if he isn't running a route. So 3 explosive players added and 3 new offensive line starters added. Plus, they bring Josh McDaniels back. And there's a lot of polarization around Josh McDaniels. He was a part of all 6 of the Patriots Super Bowls, and people wipe that away because Mr. Tom Brady was also a part of all 6 of those Super Bowls, and Josh McDaniels has always struggled outside of New England. But those were in mostly head coaching roles, and he's not in a head coaching role here. We got Mike Vrabel in town, who's had at least some success maximizing his talent on past teams, but McDaniels is going to be obviously on the offensive side of the ball, which should be an improvement over last year too. So we have an improved coaching staff, an improved offensive line, and a big improvement in receiving weapons on top of last year just being one of the worst situations sort of possible. And then Drake Maye entering year 2. So I just want to preface this episode with all of that. That is sort of the backbone for all my optimism around this team. If Drake Maye can take that step, I think we'll see multiple league winners from this team with the Patriots this year. And I'm drafting a lot of these guys pretty aggressively in fantasy. And, as you know, I got some high stakes on the line. Like, I'm not drafting these guys because I'm a Pats fan. I'm drafting them because I think they can win fantasy leagues. And let's start with Drake Maye because he's definitely one of my favorite late round QB targets on Sleeper. He's at QB 18. I waited to be the last person in my draft this past weekend on Sleeper. And in round 12, I was one pick away, got sniped, one pick
to
get Drake Maye. Ended up, panic picking 3 QBs after that. I think I got Jordan Love, Stroud, and Bryce Young maybe. I waited just a tiny bit too long. But you can get Drake Maye in round 10, 11, 12 in most drafts. Be the last guy in your league to draft a QB. He led all quarterbacks in yards per carry last season. He's got like real rushing touchdown potential. I don't think he's going to lead all quarterbacks in yards per carry. Again, it was kind of a small sample size efficiency metric there. But we talked about all those improvements for the offensive situation for the Pats, I think will flow through to Drake Maye. He takes a step in year 2. Like he could be a top 5 fantasy QB this year. So that's what you're getting in round 12. Sign me up for that all day long. Like Drake Maye and Justin Fields, honestly drafted together. Don't hate that at all. So yeah, I'm pretty in on Drake Maye. We're projecting him pretty well ahead of his sleeper ADP. I think he's a guy that has some like big differences in ADP. Let me pull this up really quick. Drake Maye. My God, he's so down there. That's ridiculous. On ESPN, Drake Maye is getting drafted after Tua. He's getting drafted as QB 20. I mean, he's just free on ESPN if people are going to be following that ADP. He's going earlier than Tua on Underdog, Sleeper, and Yahoo, CBS. He's going as QB 18, but every single platform has him QB 15 or later for a season-long draft. So he's just really cheap to acquire, and the ceiling, I think, story is just clearly there. He was over 17 points per game in his fully healthy games last year as a rookie with a bottom 5 offensive line and 0 explosive offensive talent as well. So yeah, I'm in on Drake Maye. I know that was a long-winded start to this episode, Avery, but I've been looking forward to getting all this off my chest. And also, like, I want to hear what other people think about this, because I do want to be a little careful with how much I got in the line in fantasy to not let my Pats bias get in the way. Again, I usually am pretty pessimistic, or have been in recent history, but yeah, are you in on Drake Maye as a late round QB target?
I think if you play on ESPN, first of all, you need the WalterPicks app, because there is an insane amount of ADP. Like the rookies on ESPN are going years later than they should be.
Yeah.
You can sync an app like WalterPicks to your actual draft, and it'll help you make the best pick in every single round. And it's based off actual machine learning and not just ADPs that are set by people that use the apps like ESPN, like Sleeper. So you need to have another analytical bump.
The projections are, and it's not even just machine learning. It's not just this black box of math, team math here, which is, a huge part of the projections for sure. But we also just have a team of fantasy nerds like ourselves grinding, discussing every single day about what should the target share be for Stephon Diggs? What should the yards per carry be for Drake Maye? And analyzing every single assumption that's going into the projections. And I promise you, ESPN is not doing what we're doing in the projections, and the ADPs definitely are pretty telling and reflect that for sure. But yeah, getting back to the question here at hand, Avery, are you as in on Drake Maye's ceiling as a late round quarterback? Because all that really matters is ceiling.
Exactly.
With the late round QBs, they don't hit, you drop them, you add someone else. But yeah, you think there's like a real top 5 QB ceiling here with Drake Maye?
I'd be worried if Drake Maye is my starting quarterback. I think the late round quarterback strategy is always great, but you want to get a guy that you kind of know is going to be at least a little bit of a floor for you. I think this year I'm loving Dak Prescott. His ADP is getting bumped up a decent amount as we get closer to the year. But I think Drake Maye is a similar situation to Justin Fields. If you guys haven't seen the Jets episode, you should go check that out, because there is a lot of back and forth between that team and the receivers and running backs. But Drake Maye is a guy that is going to run the ball regardless of what this offense looks like. And now you upgrade the line to help that out. Now you upgrade the receiving weapons. Some routes can actually develop downfield. You can actually have some passing touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, yes, he might be getting older and coming off injury, but is an upgrade for him. It really cannot get any worse than last year. And when he was healthy, he was averaging over 17 fantasy points a game. So I think Drake Maye at his ADP, especially on ESPN, I'm clicking the draft button when I can.
Yeah, he's one of my main late round QB targets for sure. I like Justin Fields a lot as well, and I don't hate some of the other rushing QBs that are going pretty late also. But yeah, you want a guy that can really hit in the rushing category and the passing category.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the league winners come. Like the season that Justin Fields was a top 5 QB, he only had like 150 passing yards per game, but his touchdown rate was like near the top of the league passing wise, and then he also ran for like 1,000 rushing yards or around that. I think Drake Maye, not going to be 1,000-yard rusher, like not going to be a Lamar, Justin Fields type, a Jaden Daniels type, but he definitely could have a Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen type, like rushing touchdown potential if this offense really ends up hitting. So yeah, I think there is the rushing upside, and there definitely is the passing upside with the improved weapons, which is a great segue into, I think, the biggest improved weapon on this team, not Stephon Diggs, who we're going to get to, but Trevion Henderson, second round pick out of Ohio State, played alongside Quinshon Judkins, who's obviously off to as bad of a start you could possibly be off to in the NFL. I think we filmed the Browns episode before all that happened, or maybe we did it after. But regardless, it hasn't even signed his contract yet, but also a really elite prospect that he was playing alongside of. Judkins actually had more touches in the same backfield as Trevion Henderson last season in Ohio State's national championship run. But Henderson was way more efficient than Judkins, and he was the better receiving back than Judkins. And for me, you look at this backfield, and it's just so clear that Henderson is the best receiving back on this team, on a team that is going to be led offensively from the coaching side by Josh McDaniels. You look at the last time Josh McDaniels was the Pats offensive coordinator. I know it was a little while ago, like 2018, 2019, I think range we're looking at here. James White's target shares in the final 3 healthy seasons where Josh McDaniels was the OC in all of these. And I know Tom Brady checked it down a lot, to be fair, but McDaniels was a part of these offensive game plans as well and how to use pass catching running backs. James White was at 18.1%, 17.4%, and 22.2% target share his last 3 seasons. All 3 of those numbers would have been top 2 in the NFL last season. Trevion Henderson has a real path to be top 5 in running back target share this season. And like, he could be number 1 and it wouldn't be that crazy. We've seen it from this offensive coordinator before. And it's, despite the additions at receiver this offseason, it's not like they still have tons and tons of target competition from these elite receiving weapons. So Henderson has the PPR upside, like, to me, like, really underrated. It's very hard, this point of drafts where he's going, and him and RJ Harvey are like going really close together. And I feel back and forth about which option I like more. There, I think Harvey's ceiling is probably a little bit higher just as a rusher and a runner, and the offense is like maybe a little bit safer. But man, it's hard to find running backs that could be top 3 in running back target share in rounds 5, 6, 7. And that's where Trevion Henderson is going in drafts right now. So yeah, I'm very bullish on Henderson. We're projecting him in the WalterPicks app right now. I just referenced those James White target shares. You know, we're not projecting him for quite the James White role in the WalterPicks app. We got him up at a 15% target share right now, which would have been top 5 last season, but it's well under those numbers I just shared from James White. And that has us well ahead of his ADP, 2 spots, I think, on Underdog. But in the season-long formats, we got him at running back 17, 7 spots ahead of his sleeper ADP. Yeah. This is the guy I'm targeting extremely aggressively, and just like a clear story of being a league-winning running back behind a improved offensive line, year 2 quarterback, target share potentially in the top 3. Like, what am I missing here, Avery? Like, why is he going in round 5 and 6 and not round 3 and 4?
I think it's completely in his realm of possibilities to get a 15% target share. I don't think that's crazy. Part of it makes you think, how much of this is rookie fever? How many of these rookies really are going to produce in fantasy football? Luckily for us, running backs are a pretty easy assumption there, and they typically do turn out. I don't think he can finish as a top 10 running back. He's not being drafted anywhere near there, though. I love taking a shot on him where he is at because the receiving upside is great, and he's a good pass blocker too. Any pass blocking ability you have is going to keep you on the field more. And you look at these other guys in Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, they are not great. I think they totaled for 9 fumbles last season combined. They're not going to get a ton of usage. And I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to be the RB2 out of the other guys. I think if you're in a really deep league, he might be a decent look just because Trevion Henderson won't get everything out of the gate, but you're definitely not drafting either of those 2 behind Henderson.
Yeah, and I mean, RJ Harvey versus Henderson, if you're on the clock in, say, round 5, which of those guys are you leaning towards?
I would take Harvey, but you do have to account for the fact that I don't think he's going to start as the RB1. J.K. Dobbins is taking most of the first-team reps in training camp right now, so I love handcuffing them both because of the fact that the Broncos' offense is better, and Sean Payton loves targeting the running backs as well.
What about Henderson or Aaron Jones?
Henderson all day.
Yeah, it's Henderson. I don't think it's even close.
No, it's not.
And the fact that on ESPN he's going like 3-4 running backs after Aaron Jones, I'm not going to draft Aaron Jones a single time. We actually did that episode first, and I think I said draft Aaron Jones, and as we've gone through the episodes, like, I'm not drafting Aaron Jones. I definitely take that that back. And I'm not afraid to change my takes, man.
Yeah.
As we get new information and we think about this stuff more, and we're deep in the weeds every day on this stuff, I think you're hurting yourself as an analyst if you aren't changing your takes as you think about this stuff more and get more information. But yeah, I'm in on Henderson, and I think it might be a little surprising to a lot of people. I'm also in on Ramondre Stevenson at his cost now too. Every single piece of fantasy content that I've seen about Ramondre Stevenson has been so negative. I've seen negative after negative after negative take on Ramondre Stevenson. And I feel like the thing that bothers me about all of it is like no one's mentioning the cost to get him.
Yeah.
Like it at a certain point, the negative stuff is being over factored into people's prices. And all of these offensive environment improvements are going to help Ramondre Stevenson a lot too. He has a much better offensive line. Last year, he was playing behind a bottom 5 offensive line. But I think the thing that really got lost in last season is Ramondre Stevenson's injury. Last season, Ramondre Stevenson averaged 13.3 PPR points per game in his first 5 games. He had 3 games, over 17 PPR points in the first 5 games of the season, despite, again, playing behind, I would argue, I've been saying bottom 5, probably bottom 3 offensive line. Still had 3 games over 17 PPR points as the lead back. Then in week 6, he gets a foot injury. And he played through it the rest of the season. And it feels like that's just getting lost in, an inefficient running back here with Ramondre Stevenson, who's now recovered from this foot injury. Like, I could really see this being a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs type setup where Henderson is Gibbs and Mondre is David Montgomery. We've seen him produce as running back 1 before. And like, definitely going to be a reduced receiving role, I think, with Henderson in the mix. I don't think he's the most explosive back in this backfield anymore. But again, bringing it back to the cost, like what's the cost to get him? He's going after like so many guys that I think have a lower ceiling than him. If I just scroll down the ESPN ADPs here, Ramondre Stevenson is going after Jalen Warren. He's going after he's actually higher on ESPN than I remembered. He's getting picked like right near Austin Eckler. Let me see. He's getting drafted way earlier on ESPN. He's up at running back 33 on ESPN. Like, that's pretty steep. That's right after all the starting running backs basically are off the board. But on every other platform, Underdog, Sleeper, Yahoo, he's going outside the top 36 running backs. Like, there's going to be standalone value here. Like, he's going to have an early down rushing role. It's not like Henderson's going to be in this massive rushing role, especially out of the gates. There's not as much receiving upside, but he is an injury away from being in this massively improved situation. He's a capable receiving back if he needs to take into that role. It's not like he can't, similar to David Montgomery. And like, he could score more than 10 touchdowns this year if this offense really improves and he's the primary goal line back behind an improved offensive line. So yeah, I think there's like a better ceiling case for Mondre than a lot of people are giving him credit for, especially at his cost. We are a bit behind his projection in the WalterPicks app, largely because of the target projection, and we're really not projecting him, to be that much more efficient in the touchdown column with how the touchdown efficiencies work. But yeah, I'm a little bit more bullish, I think, than most on Mondre as well. Are you out on Mondre? Are you with the negative, all the negative Nancy's out there with Ramondre Stevenson?
Well, the way we talk about this offense so far, it makes it seem like we think the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. But you just look at the prices they're all going at.
I did not say they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're middle of the pack offensive line and like a few explosive players. That's all we're asking for.
But the thing is like they all look like good values because everybody's getting drafted so low. Right. Somebody's got to beat their ADP. I don't think Ramondre is going to get anywhere near winning leagues, but I think it's definitely in his realm of possibilities to outperform almost RB40. Where's he going at?
Right. Yeah, he's getting drafted around RB40. Like, to me, that's his floor. Like, he's going to be this standalone, like running back 3, running back 4 sort of flex option with Henderson healthy. And if Henderson misses time, suddenly you have like a workhorse back on an ascending offense. And yeah, they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they're just not going to be bottom 5. They might be middle of the pack, get into one of the last playoff slots type of team. We'll see how the defense ends up being as well, obviously for actual, NFL purposes. But let's talk about these receivers, man, because this is a hodgepodge group of wide receivers. Like when we get to the wide receiver 4, 5 on this team, like it's a group of like 4 or 5 guys that all could like play real snaps and all could get cut. Like there's a really big range of outcomes with how this receiver room shakes out, but there's not a big range of outcomes at who leads this team in targets. I think it's, pretty definitely going to be Stephon Diggs, and he's going out to the top 40 wide receivers right now. Everywhere we've seen Stephon Diggs go his entire career, he's earned a significant target share. He's pretty much locked in to a 25% plus target share, in my opinion, in this offense. I think we're projecting him actually a bit above that. Right now, we're projecting Stephon Diggs actually to get up to 24%. We have him ramping up just a bit in the first 2 weeks. We lowered his target share projection a little bit because he's coming off the ACL. Then we might change that as we get closer to the season and he's fully healthy. But yeah, we're projecting him a 24% target share this year. I mean, to me, that's like closer to his floor than his ceiling.
Yeah.
Closer to his floor than his ceiling target share wise. I like him where he's going in drafts right now. It's at the top 40 wide receivers. That's right around where we have him ranked. He was the wide receiver 18 in points per game last year with Stroud in his limited sample. I know Tank Dell missed some time as well. But yeah, how are you feeling about Stephon Diggs as the wide receiver 1 here?
Last season was different for Diggs because there was so much touchdowns that he just came his way. But when you look at his price this year, going outside the top 40 wide receivers as a wide receiver 1, like you have some wide receiver 2s going ahead of him. Now, obviously, you're going to be taking the T. Higgins of the wide receiver 2s over Stephon Diggs. But the opportunities is there. And if you guys have watched any of the other episodes of this podcast, I'm not a huge believer in drafting wide receiver 1s that are in bottom 5 scoring offenses, but this probably is not going to be a bottom 5 scoring offense. So I think Stephon Diggs at his price, very, very viable. And it's a guy that I'm targeting in almost all of my leagues that I can get him at.
Yeah, he's been steadily rising in ADP over the course of the summer as it becomes more clear that he is fully healthy.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and we had a little bit of a dip in the ADP with the purple powder early in the offseason. That was a good buying opportunity. Yeah. He's definitely U-turned, from there basically. But I am curious, are some of the guys going around him, at least on ESPN, if who you would rather take between Chris Olave and Stephon Diggs. Olave's 2 wide receiver spots ahead of him right now.
I think
ESPN.
Chris Olave is a better talent and a better receiver. But again, going back to the bottom 5 scoring offense situation, I just don't think he has that high of a potential to finish top 24, top 30. It's definitely there. But again, with the offense scoring, I think Stephon Diggs is more likely.
Yeah, I lean Olave there. I'm pretty bullish on him in fantasy. Definitely, there's some serious QB concerns.
Yeah,
they're probably the worst situation in the NFL quarterback room, honestly, by like a decent margin, which is saying something with some of the other QB rooms out there. I think it's close, though, between Olave and Diggs. I personally lean Olave. Cooper Kupp, he's 1 spot ahead of Steph Diggs on ESPN right now. Would you go Kupp or Diggs?
That's rude to have Cooper Kupp at the ADP next to Stephon Diggs.
Right now, ESPN and Sleeper both have Kupp ahead of Diggs. Yahoo, Underdog, pretty widely.
That is insane.
Diggs ahead of Kupp. Yeah, I mean, this is why I part of the reason I really love the WalterPicks app in my draft is I can toggle to Underdog ADP in my draft, which all offseason, real money drafts happening on Underdog that like this is legit ADP that's updating from actual drafts, whereas ESPN ADP and rankings are like always just kind of out there, especially if you go later and later in drafts. Like Diggs on ESPN, Diggs is going as wide receiver. Sorry, Kupp is going ahead of Stephon Diggs on ESPN. On Underdog, Cooper Kupp's 10 wide receivers after Stephon Diggs. On Sleeper, on Yahoo, Cooper Kupp is 12 wide receivers after Stephon Diggs. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy, the discrepancy.
It is insane.
There. One other duo, and I definitely agree with you. I'm going Diggs over Kupp like pretty easily. But I'm curious on this last one between Stephon Diggs and Matthew Golden, who's 1 spot behind him on ADP, potentially the wide receiver 1 for the Packers, a little bit of unknown upside. Rookie wide receiver for the Packers. Would you go Golden over Diggs?
It seems almost impossible these days that the Packers actually have a go-to X wide receiver since Devontae Adams. I think out of anybody, Golden can be that guy. He's playing a lot in 2 wide receiver sets in training camp so far. He seems to be like the go-to. There is a lot of question marks there. It might also be one of those situations where he's going so low, you buy in on that price to where if he does turn out, it's going to be a league-winning situation. I believe in the Packers offense more, so Golden might be that answer for me, again, of a rookie fever kind of pick, but they're very even to me.
Yeah, I'm going Diggs over Golden like very easily. I do not want the start-sit headache of Matthew Golden. I think Jaden Reed probably will out-target him this season. Christian Watson's going to come back for the fantasy playoffs as well. Just I think a safer pick, and honestly, to me, it's like similar ceilings between Diggs and Matthew Golden as well. So yeah, I'm pretty in on Diggs at his cost right now. And in general, like this range of drafts is like my favorite spot to grab like one of my last receivers. My ideal draft, I'm getting 2 or 3 stud running backs in the first 5-6 rounds. Henderson certainly like towards the end of that list. Henderson and RJ Harvey being my third running back. I feel great about that. And then if I can get my 4th or 5th receiver to be Diggs, like I'm gonna feel amazing about that as well. And where he's going in drafts, like that is definitely doable in drafts this season. And Diggs is like at the end of a tier to me, a receiver with like a real floor and real ceiling. You start to get into guys like Keon Coleman, and Michael Pittman, and Jaden Reed, and Rashid Shaheed. Like shortly after Stephon Diggs is off the board, none of these guys I don't think have the same potential as Diggs in the same floor. As well. So yeah, I do like getting him where he's going a lot. In terms of the other receivers on this team, we got Demario Douglas like slotted into the slot role right now, and he's projected up next in terms of the target share in the WalterPicks app. I think that's what most people expect just in general. We are a little bit behind his ADP with our projections, largely just like he's not going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's never been a touchdown scorer. He's sort of in a Wan'Dale Robinson type role where he could get some PPR production because of the targets in the slot, but he's not going to win leagues. I really don't see a league winning potential there for Douglas. Kyle Williams, honestly, I think the ceiling's a bit higher for him with the rookie fever that you mentioned, which I have a really bad case of, by the way. I just threw some shade at Matthew Golden, but that's about as pessimistic as you'll see me get with the rookies this time of year. But yeah, I do think Kyle Williams, he could be like a Darnell Mooney type in this offense. But is that really like a league winning ceiling his rookie season? I don't think so. Like for me, Kyle Williams is in this rookie tier where there's definitely some upside. Like I wouldn't knock people for taking him, in round 11 plus where he's going in drafts, but he's not going to win leagues in my opinion. I don't think we're going to see a consistent league winning production from someone in Kyle Williams' profile. Like again, I think Darnell Mooney is like a ceiling case for him. And like rookie season, Darnell Mooney, is he going to win fantasy leagues? Like probably not. I don't think he's at that type of profile. This offense also signed Mac Hollins. The Pat signed Mac Hollins this offseason. Like he's pretty much a lock to be on the roster and play at least a little bit. Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, they're both still on the roster right now. One of those guys is probably getting cut. My money would be on Javon Baker, but Polk is, I think, actually sidelined right now with an injury, so he's off to a rough start. And then they also have Kayshon Boutte, who like was their best receiver. He was last year. He was their best receiver. As a Pats fan who watched every game, like hands down, was their best receiver last season. Again, that just paints the picture of the situation last year. But I think he's pretty much a lock to make the team as well with how he played last season and his connection with Maye in some of those games. But like a situational deep threat, not a guy that's going to be fantasy relevant. They also have Kendrick Bourne still too, who's fully healthy. So again, when you get to like the wide receiver 4-5 range of this team, I think this is one of the most ambiguous wide receiver rooms in the NFL at this range. And then Efton Chisholm, we got to give a shout out to as well. People keep bringing him up because he was popping off in not training camp, but rookie camp or mini camp before training camp even starts. No pads on when he was getting this hype. I still think odds are probably against him making the team. I definitely don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant, but I'm rooting for him, man. Definitely rooting for him.
I don't know. There's so many wide receivers there's so many ranges of possibilities. You could see Mac Hollins as the wide receiver 2, getting like the most targets behind Stephon Diggs. He could not even touch the field for most of the season. Like you really don't know. You're not drafting any of these guys in fantasy. Demario Douglas would probably be the closest, but if he's a floor player and the floor is right outside your flex spot, like, is it really worth a draft pick? I say no. I'd rather just grab a really high value handcuff to somebody or just a more valuable pick, maybe even a tight end at that range.
Yeah, and they just spent a round 2 pick on Jalen Polk last season. Like it's hard for me to see them cutting him so soon, even though he obviously disappointed big time as a rookie. I'm just really praying Kyle Williams breaks the Patriots wide receiver curse. Because they have had the worst ability to draft wide receivers really in my lifetime. I mean, they haven't hit on a single wide receiver pick really in the early parts of the draft. And they sort of just stopped even trying for a little while there because they were so cursed. And I got my N'Keal Harry jersey somewhere in my bag over there. So I'm well versed in the pain of Patriots rookie wide receivers. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Kayshon Boutte or Kendrick Bourne like is the wide receiver 3 on this team, and I wouldn't be shocked if they get cut. Like it is really crazy at the back end of these receivers. Probably not too relevant for most people's fantasy leagues, so we can move on. Definitely relevant for the 32, though. Curious to see where all these Patriots receivers go in the 32 creator draft that we have this weekend. I do want to just touch on the tight ends here quick. Hunter Henry is a captain on the Pats. He did have some steady fantasy production last year, 20.6% target share, tight end 7 in target share last year. Hunter Henry, pretty sneaky there. Tight end 4 in targets inside the 10. He only had a 3% touchdown rate, though. Like, there is somewhat real touchdown potential for Hunter Henry. The target volume was there. He could be number 2 in target share on this team after Diggs, making the wide receiver room even more ambiguous. I think that is actually what we have projected right now in the WalterPicks app. Yeah, just slightly. We got Diggs up at 24% target share. We have Hunter Henry at 15%, down from what he was at last season because they did add some weapons. We have Henderson tied with him at 15% target share, and then a hodgepodge of receivers. We have Kyle Williams right now ahead of the pack at a 14% target share. But really, we could see the ball spread out like a lot here after Stephon Diggs. Are you at all in on Hunter Henry? He's pretty much free going as tight end 20 on Sleeper right now, tight end 19 on Underdog. We got him right at tight end 21 in our projections.
Yeah, that'll be a completely free price. The only drawback here with me is that he did split a lot of time with Austin Hooper last season, and not even time. Like, it was receptions and routes that they were splitting a lot of. I don't love drafting Hunter Henry because of that reason. I like guys that can be the tight end 1 all of the time on their team. My tight end strategy is to either get one of the top 3 guys or punt. Hunter Henry doesn't seem like that candidate for punt for me. I think he can be a serviceable player, but I wouldn't be comfortable having to put him in my lineup more than a bye week situation. Yeah,
and last year, 20% target share, 20.6% target share for Henry, 11% target share for Austin Hooper. We cashed on multiple Austin Hooper player props. If you were following the WalterPicks prop advice, which has been profitable for back-to-back seasons now. But over half a reception for Austin Hooper was cashing pretty consistently last year. Half a reception for a guy with 11% target share is, free money, basically. But yeah, he's playing, and he's going to keep playing for sure. So yeah, it definitely is a thorn in Henry's side. Like, the touchdown story, I could see him getting there. The target share is definitely higher than I think people realize. Like, if this offense does take a step forward, he's more of a best ball play, though, for me, like late in best ball drafts. Not the guy I want running into the season as my tight end.
I'd be scared.
Tight end 1. But he is a guy, if you do punt tight end, to be aware of on the waivers for sure in a lot of leagues. Because if he ends up getting a 20% plus target share again, and the offense does take a step forward, and we're projecting him a 15% target share this season, and that's in line with his ADP. So he definitely could beat that, which is, not saying much at tight end 20. Any other thoughts on the Patriots here? Do you want to cool down like my optimism at all, or you're just fueling it up? You're letting me just go full steam ahead with the Pat's optimism in fantasy this season?
The only reason I agree with the optimism, again, is because the fantasy price is so low. I think Drake Maye is a fine pick.
Yeah, Henderson is my favorite target of the group for sure. To be clear, I don't want to make it seem like I'm as optimistic about every single one of these players as I am with him specifically, with the potential receiving role. And he's a guy too. Like, a lot of these rookie running backs for me, my rookie fever is not going to wear off till probably like week 8, week 9. Like, especially if someone like him starts kind of slow, we don't see the targets right away, and people start panicking. I think there'll be good buying opportunities there at the start of the season. I like Drake Maye a lot as a late round QB target. And like, there's just an end of a wide receiver tier where Diggs goes 100%. In drafts that I like to attack. Even I'm willing to push tight end another round, push QB another round, and have like a legit like ceiling at wide receiver as my wide receiver 4 or 5 in my drafts, especially if I can start 3 or even 4 in some leagues. So yeah, I would rank my optimism for fantasy as Henderson, Maye, Diggs, Ramondre, and then the rest of this team I'm probably fading.
I agree.
For the most part for season long, but I'm down to stack them pretty much all, in best ball, of course. That does it for our Patriots episode. Had a lot of fun with this one. Avery, I'm nervous to be optimistic for the first time in a long time. It just feels different than I'm used to, and I know people don't care about Pack fans at this point in our last 15 years of success.
Yeah,
but I'm pumped to be a Pats fan for sure heading into this season. If you guys are enjoying these episodes, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We're doing every single team. We're going to be talking about every single team and every single player basically for the rest of the next 3 months. Can't wait to get into it. This is the best time of year. Avery,
yes, it is.
Peak optimism, and I hope my Pats optimism is not falling into the unrealistic peak optimism time of year when everyone's healthy and everyone is going to have a winning season. But that does it for our Pats episode. We'll be back super soon with the next one.